No. No.
Tap something on your lip. Mm-hmm. No.
Got one that was still. So
Mm-mm.
I didn't think so. I seen that border around there.
It was you that left us and came back.
He had us teaching today.
Yeah, that's what she said. Well, we are starting the book of Proverbs today. And so with that, the book of Proverbs is a different kind of book. In the Old Testament, they have the law, the prophets, but they also have the writings. This would definitely be part of the writings. And so it's important to talk about why it was written, what it's all about, who it was written by, etc. But unlike most books of the Bible, this sort of it tells us, it gives us the answers. Let's begin with prayer. God, as we begin this new study, we ask that you would help us to be wise, to ingest these words and live them out in our lives. Help us to be your people in Jesus' name. Amen. So I'm just going to go ahead and get started.
Let me share a proverb from Sam Shannon.
Okay.
As a man gets older, he forgets that he forgets.
I believe that.
I know it to be true.
Well, I didn't send you a suggestion for the book to study, but I actually had decided Proverbs would be a good one. So I'm glad we're doing Proverbs.
Well, it'll be interesting because it's also a new way of teaching, because this is so vastly different than any other book I've looked at. So we're going to start with 1:1. The Proverbs of Solomon, son of David, king of Israel. Now read through that one and tell me what you think. So to start, who do you think wrote Proverbs?
Solomon.
Not all of them, but a lot of them. What is Solomon known for?
His wisdom.
Yes, he is known for his wisdom. And so the fact that this book is attributed to Solomon is important. By the way, Solomon is also known for building the temple in Jerusalem. But if you've ever built anything, you know it takes a lot of wisdom to deal with that too. But yeah, so Solomon, the one that is considered wise, is the one that we should all that we should all follow, and his wisdom. is absolutely important. And so it starts off at the very beginning. Proverbs of Solomon. Now, what exactly is a proverb? That is an important question.
Teaching.
Yeah, a story with a message.
Teaching, a story with a message. What else? Does that pretty much cover it? I think so. Hang on, as I flip through my book, I will give you a it's okay. First of all, Proverbs is the genre of the book. Okay. Talk amongst yourselves. Talk about what Proverbs are.
This says to impart wisdom for godly living. That's pretty good.
Like a truth, a maxim or a truth.
Right. Or a map.
Sorry about that. We're refinancing and Stacy has to go to the lawyer's office, and the earliest time they had the latest time they had next week was 3:00 on Monday. And she has staff meeting that apparently she is presenting in, so she can't skip it. Proverbs is because it's good that it tells right away what the kind of book is. And now there are two major kinds of the Proverbs here. One are instructive speeches and the others are wisdom sayings. The instructive speeches come in chapters 1 through 9, and the wisdom sayings come in 10 through 31. And so 10 through 31 will be interesting to teach because it's just like, okay, a verse here, a verse there, a verse here, a verse there. And so it's, but yeah, I mean, they're instructive sayings to help guide, to help guide people, right? And they're also stories. So let's move ahead to the next section. It's a little longer. This one's 5 verses. For learning about wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for gaining instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity. To teach shrewdness to the simple, knowledge and prudence to the young. Let the wise also hear and gain in learning, and the discerning acquire skill. To understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. So read back through that. Now, I realized that I did sort of something unfair because it sounded like part of that was missing because it started with the word for, but actually it was a continuation of verse 1. So it was the wisdom of Solomon, the Proverbs, wisdom of Solomon, son of David, for these things. Okay, so these verses tell us why Proverbs was written. And again, when I said, usually you dig through a bunch of books, and commentaries to answer, okay, well, what's the main theme? What's the purpose of the book? He tells us it's for learning about wisdom and instruction, for understanding words of insight, for gaining instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity, to teach shrewdness to the simple, knowledge and prudence to the young, and let the wise also hear and gain in learning, and the discerning acquire skill to understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. So what's the purpose of this?
Knowledge.
Understanding.
Knowledge, understanding. But there's one key word that Proverbs is all about.
Instruction?
Nope.
Wisdom?
Wisdom. The book of Proverbs is about wisdom. And the opposite of wisdom is
Foolishness.
foolishness. And so throughout Proverbs, we will hear about the wise and the foolish. And so also off the bat, what you will also hear is it is an extremely masculine oriented book. Okay. This is instruction to young men. Why would it be to a young man?
The head of the household.
Not just that, women couldn't learn back then. This book is also, it was designed as a textbook to teach young Jewish leaders how to lead and how to live. So, this was kind of like, a book this is a school book for them. And when you read it as much, it's kind of neat to realize that. But also we have to remember that it is a school book for them. Some of the things here may not exactly gel with modern day. For instance, we've all heard the proverb, spare the rod and spoil the child. I dare you to use a rod on your children today and see how well that goes. That would be foolish, not wise.
I did.
Not with an actual rod, I'm thinking.
And on the day, what I had.
Yeah.
I was.
And I think I
That
don't
was 50 years ago. So
yeah, exactly.
We have bells now.
yes.
Yeah, but they were using rods, like not like steel rods, but like, you remember that kid that got caned in Singapore or whatever?
Mhm.
Rods. That's how, but realize that, so some of the things are still very helpful for us. And some we can just look at and go, that was well pleasing in their sight and that was helpful for them, but it may not be quite as helpful for us. But the overall theme of this, this is the goal of the book. It says here right up front in verses 2-6. And so looking through here, learning about wisdom and instruction. Now, see, that's interesting. You're learning about wisdom and about instruction. So, that's kind of an interesting phrase, because we usually think that learning and instruction, but how many of us were taught about instruction? Well, that's the bad question, seeing as how many teachers we have in this room right now. We are completely outnumbered. And even one of us who's not a teacher did education his whole career. So, it's but it's learning about instruction. So there's part of this is learning how to learn. and for understanding words of insight, and for gaining instruction in wise dealing, righteousness, justice, and equity. Equity has been a big word lately in our culture. And it's interesting that here it is back all the way in Proverbs. Do you understand what equity is?
Mhm.
I think the greatest thing, the greatest example I've seen are kids looking over a fence. And what you have is a tall kid, a medium-sized kid, and a short kid. And equality is they're all given a box, the same box. And the tall kid can just see even better over the fence. The medium-sized kid can see better over the fence, but the short kid is still looking at the fence. Equity, however, is the tall kid gets a little box to help him. The medium kid gets a slightly bigger box, and the short kid gets a much bigger box so that they can all see. That's equity. That's different from equality. Equality is everybody gets the same regardless of the need. And honestly, it's kind of foolish thinking. Equity is wise. And so it says to teach shrewdness to the simple. In other words, to the people that don't know yet. And knowledge and prudence to the young. Again, so this is more of a starting place for them, the simple and the young. However, you're never done learning, right? And so it says, let the wise also hear and gain learning. So just because you are wise and you've graduated already, this stuff isn't, it's still good for you to know this stuff too. And so then to understand a proverb and a figure, the words of the wise and their riddles. In other words, things that are difficult to understand. This book helps us understand things that are difficult to understand. So that is the purpose and the theme of the entire book of Proverbs. Now, the next verse, because the next one is only one verse, because it's pretty deep. Verse 7, the fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. The fear of the Lord is the beginning of knowledge. Fools despise wisdom and instruction. So what do you think that means?
Fools think they know it all, so they don't need to be instructed.
Well, yeah. That's the second half. What is true wisdom? Knowing what you don't know.
Mm-hmm.
It's not about knowing it all. It's about knowing what you don't know. So what else? What do you hear in the first part?
The first thing that we need to learn is to fear the Lord.
It starts with God, worship, praise. In other words, that's the smartest thing you can do.
Yeah, that's how you begin to get knowledge.
Yeah, that's the start, the end, and all in between. So basically, being wise is centered in the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
And so we would all do well to remember that one too.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Moving right along. Now we look at verses 8 and 9. Hear, my child, your father's instructions, and do not reject your mother's teachings, for they are a fair garland for your head and pendants for your neck. Look over that. So what do you hear there?
Listen to your mother and father.
Yeah. Isn't that interesting? First, you have
God.
God. And then the second thing you do is,
Pay attention to your parents.
yes.
Honor your parents.
Now, this is a very interesting statement, by the way, because there is wisdom literature in other cultures, in the Egyptian cultures and the Babylonian cultures. This is the only one that mentions mothers, which shows the prominence of a Jewish mother. And if you know a Jewish mother now, you know they're still pretty prominent.
Yep.
But you know, a wise, and so this says, I mean, because I'm sure in that culture there was a lot of sons, well, I don't need to listen to you, you're just a woman kind of thing. And Jewish culture wasn't like that. You listen to your mama, you know, and so to be a wise Jewish leader, you listen to the counsel of your parents. Might be good for, I mean, the Proverbs might be good to be taught in schools nowadays. Let's be honest, many of them, especially when you see the very first warning, which is coming next. And so, yeah, I mean, starts with God and then moves to listening to your parents. Now, again, remember that this was written like for young Jewish leaders, young. And so, you know, this was for teenagers probably. And so it's, sorry. So let's go on. My child, if sinners entice you, do not consent. If they say, come with us, let us lie in wait for blood, let us wantonly ambush the innocent. Like Sheol, let us swallow them alive and whole, like those who go down to the pit. We shall find all kinds of costly things. We shall fill our houses with booty. Throw in your lot among us. We will all have one purse. My child, do not walk in their way. Keep your foot from their paths, for their feet run to evil and they hurry to shed blood. For in vain is the net baited while the bird is looking on. Yet they lie in wait to kill themselves and set an ambush for their own lives. Let's read through that one again.
Like Danny had a definite saying, watch the people you run around with, they'll get you in trouble. That's the same as that.
You're none of the company you keep.
Yeah.
All right. What do you hear there?
Do not give in to peer pressure or you will regret it.
Yeah. What else? There's a question. When you were sending your children off, or when you were being sent off, when you were leaving your parents to go somewhere, if your kids were going somewhere to a party or something, what questions would you ask?
No question, just remember who you are.
Remember who you are. What else? But what would you ask though? Like, what would you want to know?
Well, before giving permission to go, you'd want to know, will adults be there? What's going to be going on? Where is it going to be? Who's going to be there?
There, whoa. There you go.
Who you're going to be hanging out with.
Yeah.
Yeah.
When is it? When will you be home?
Mm-hmm.
Where is it? Who's going to be there?
Who's going to be there? Yep.
That who's going to be there is absolutely important.
Mm-hmm.
You know, it was funny. We were, Stacy and I, you know, we always binge watch a show. We're binge watching a show called The Medium that was on several years ago. And their oldest daughter was going to go on a ski trip with her best friend. And they said, who else is going to be there? Her brother and his friends who were 18.
Yeah.
No parents, you know, it was, no. But it's, you know, who's going to be there, because we know that who our children hang out with and who we hung out with and still hang out with is important.
Mm-hmm.
Because kids follow.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want your kid to have friends, first of all, that'll be nice to them, but also that aren't going to get them in trouble for doing stupid things.
Mm-hmm.
And I mean, that's exactly what he's saying here. You know, you're going to go hanging out with these guys that want to kill people or beat them up and steal from them. And fill their own houses. You know, come and gamble with us and we'll all have one purse. You know, that's great. And then it says, you know, don't walk in their ways, keep your foot from their paths, for their feet run evil and they hurry to shed blood. This is a neat phrase. For in vain is the net baited while the bird is looking on. You know, it's like, you know, here's a trap and your prey is sitting there watching you set the trap. And unless that prey is really dumb, they're just going to walk around it. And so you'll end up getting killed. I mean, you know, they set an ambush for their own lives. You know, as I was preparing this study today, a news flash came up that said a 17-year-old kid was arrested in Spartanburg County for felony DUI, which is he killed somebody driving drunk. 17. They probably arrested him in high school. And to look at this kid, I mean, innocent looking kid. I mean, could have been any of ours. And, you know, took one life, ruined another. And I bet you he wasn't drinking by himself. You know, that's the kind of things that you don't, who you hang out with is important. And I think that's still true as adults. Who you hang out with is important. You know, what side are you going to be on?
John, when we moved to Newton, John learned that lesson the hard way.
I remember that.
He met up with a guy that was also new. He was in 10th grade and hung out with him. And the next thing he knew, the guy started a fight before school. And John was dragged into the principal's office because he was hanging out with him.
I remember.
Yeah. And John, the principal or assistant principal asked John, well, who were the other guys? And John said, I don't know. And the principal said, you've been in school with them for at least the last 4 years. Why don't you know? And John had to explain, because this is just my second or third day here. And
I think it was, what's his last name? I don't know.
Yeah, I think you're right, John, Stephen. But anyway, let me tell you, that was the last day that child hung out with him because he didn't want to be dragged into trouble. And that's where it was headed.
I wonder who that kid was.
I don't know.
I'll have to ask him. Because I would have ended up in school with that same kid eventually. And it's not like it was a big school.
No.
But yeah, I mean, it's all about, guilty by association a lot of times. And what it also talks about here is that wisdom has a societal impact. And so does folly. Wisdom and foolishness both have a societal impact. It's not just about you being smart or you being stupid. It's also about what happens to you and to others when you're stupid and they're stupid too, or you're wise and they're wise as well. And so those are all things that are brought forth in the book of Proverbs. So what we've learned so far is that we need to fear God, and we need to listen to our parents, and we need to be careful of who we hang out with. Don't hang out with the bad kids. Don't associate with those people because you'll end up getting in trouble too. So let's move on to the next part.
Mhm.
119, this is just a summary. So, such is the end of all who are greedy for gain. It takes away the life of its possessors. Read that and let's talk about it. What do you think that means?
Greed consumes your life.
Yeah.
I think it maybe talks about your centering of your life. In other words, if your life is centered on greedy gain, then the rest of your life doesn't have any meaning because you're more concerned with that desire for greed than you are for personal relationships, for family, for anything except that gain.
Yeah, and it's not greed, it's gain. Greedy described the gain. And so again, this is what verse 19 is it's kind of a summary statement of the previous verses. I mean, we know this because it starts out with such is. That's like therefore. So greedy gain means, hanging out with people to move forward in life, to get something, because I mean, why would they? All right, you're going to lie and wait or steal from these people. Why? For gain of money. There's also groups that will want to gain power, gain ill-gotten relationships. I mean, there's all kinds of that greedy gain. And so a lot of that happens in the midst of being mixed up with bad crowds. And so it takes away the life of its possessors.
Can I read what the NIV says?
Yeah.
It says, because I hadn't noticed it until just now, it says, such is the end of all who go after ill-gotten gain. It takes away the lives of those who get it.
Yeah. That actually flows better with what preceded it.
Mhm.
Even though it's probably not as good a translation, it does make more sense.
Mhm. Well, and there's a whole lot of things in the news that this would would be a good reference to, like the Murdaugh, all the things with Murdaugh that's been going on.
Yeah, that's just an interesting little tale, isn't it?
Because ill-gotten gain has definitely taken away lives of people who get it.
Yeah.
Stephen, I like the message too. When you grab all you get, when you grab all you can get, that's what happens. The more you get, the less you are.
Right. Yeah.
You're defined by what you have rather than who you are.
Mm-hmm.
And if what you have has been stolen,
Right.
or you killed for it,
Mhm.
you know, if you've gotten it by nefarious methods,
Mhm.
you know, that's you get what you get.
Mhm.
And you end up dead, either literally dead or dead to that.
Figuratively. Mhm.
Yeah, I mean, it's, well, all right. You look at the drug culture,
Mhm.
drug dealers and things like that.
Yeah.
I mean, those folks can make tons of money. You know, I mean, more money than any of us will see combined, probably. But
I ought to get you for that.
yeah, that's right. I mean, first of all, you know, there's a good chance you'll end up dead.
Yep.
Or in prison, or with nothing. I mean,
Wishing you did.
yeah,
Well, and live in fear your whole life.
right. And again, that's just foolishness. Now, I know I've probably mentioned this here before. The 2 rules that I have in youth ministry fit very well with the book of Proverbs: respect and don't be stupid. You know, respect yourself, respect others, and don't be stupid. And it covers everything. Those 2 rules cover everything. But for Proverbs, basically the big rule is don't be stupid. And I know the word stupid, but we don't have any children in here. So that's the word I'm going to use. It's the most forceful one.
Yeah. It works.
So let's move onward to verse 20. At 20 to 31, I believe. Yeah. Wisdom cries out in the street. In the square, she raises her voice. At the busiest corner, she cries out. At the entrance of the city gates, she speaks. How long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge? Give heed to my reproof. I will pour out my thoughts to you. I will make my words known to you, because I have called and you refused, have stretched out my hand and no one heeded. And because you have ignored all my counsel and would have none of my reproof, I also will laugh at your calamity. I will mock when panic strikes you. When panic strikes you like a storm and your calamity comes like a whirlwind, when distress and anguish come upon you, then they will call upon me, but I will not answer. They will seek me diligently, but will not find me, because they hated knowledge and did not choose the fear of the Lord, would have none of my counsel, and despised all my reproof. Therefore they shall eat the fruit of their way and be sated with their own devices.
That says a lot.
Yeah, it does. All right, read through that. All right. What do you hear in that?
You made your bed, now you can lie in it.
Yeah.
I've heard that before.
Yeah. Great proverb, Teresa. Yeah, what else?
Is that what your daddy told you? After you joined the Air Force.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's what his daddy told him after he joined the Air Force.
You made your bed, you can lie in it.
Uh-huh.
For 4 years.
Probably wasn't a very comfortable bed either.
Sometimes it wasn't.
Sure beat infantry though, didn't it?
Yeah, it was a good thing for me. I learned a lot of wisdom.
In 4 years.
I'll bet.
I learned in 6 months what I didn't learn in 12 years.
Yeah, they have a way of teaching you, from what I understand. And you know, the thing is, in this passage, wisdom is personified. You know, wisdom speaks. Now, wisdom is not God. Make no mistake. Wisdom is living the path of God. And so when wisdom speaks, it's not God speaking, it's wisdom. And so the fact that wisdom sounds like, you know, ha, 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 is not God laughing at you. But, you know, you reap what you sow. I mean, you made your bed, you got to lie in it. I mean, the funny thing is, the best way sometimes to explain Proverbs is with other Proverbs. But yeah, I mean, it's, you know, be smart. Don't be dumb. And I love it. It's like, it says, how long, O simple ones, will you love being simple? How long will scoffers delight in their scoffing and fools hate knowledge? How long? Quit being stupid. Use your brain. Be smart. You know, I think maybe there should be a study of Proverbs done in the Capitol building. Maybe I'm wrong.
Yeah.
No.
You know, at the beginning of every session, or at least every year, when new senators and congressmen come in, they should learn this. How long will you delight in being stupid? Because let's be honest, we have lost all common sense in our country. And I don't care what side of the aisle you're sitting on, common sense would really go a long way. And we just don't. And that's what we're talking about here. You know, this lesson isn't about geometry or calculus or advanced English or chemistry or any of that. This is just about how to live smart, and how to be wise. And in chapter 1, it really sets the path for us. You know, one, this is the wisdom of Solomon, and the purpose of the book is to teach us this wisdom. And we need to fear the Lord, and we need to listen to our parents, and we need to not follow the morons, and we need to stop being stupid. That's the summary that we have so far.
Use your brain.
I mean, you know, and so it puts it kind of bluntly, doesn't it? Well, not as bluntly as I just did, but you know,
Got the message.
yeah. So
The book club book this month is sort of an example of what happens to someone when they don't listen and they want more than what they should have. She's paying the price.
What's the book?
Let me see.
hang on.
The life or something.
The Invisible Life of Addie LaRue.
Yep. By B.E. Schwab.
Yeah, I just happened to have the announcement sitting on my desk, and so I was able to. Sometimes it works. It pays off to work at a church. If I don't have the announcements, I know somebody that can get them for me. So, and then the final 2 verses are sort of the summary of the whole first chapter. For waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to me will be secure and will live at ease without dread of disaster. For waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. But those who listen to me will be secure and will live at ease without dread of disaster. So what are you hearing there?
You got a choice, live or die.
All right, Bobby, when you heard that phrase, what came to mind? Live or die.
Live or die?
Yeah.
Ooh,
Was there a movie that popped into your head?
I don't know.
Teresa?
James Bond.
Okay, that's live and let live.
Live and let live. Yeah, that's true.
Or live and let die. No, it's live and let die.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
The
That's the
song is
song,
live
the
and let
Beatles.
live. And the
That
phrase
was the
is
Beatles song, Live and Let Die.
live and let live was Beatles. Live and let die was James Bond, right?
I think Live and Let Die was Beatles too.
Yeah, that's the Beatles too.
Oh,
Yeah.
Bobby would know that one. I was thinking Karate Kid 2, where he's at live or die, man, live or die.
Yeah.
And then he honked his nose in one of the dumbest all-time movie things. But yeah, it's great. It's for the waywardness kills the simple, and the complacency of fools destroys them. So all the crap that happens in people's lives is their own fault for being stupid. Not all of it, though. I mean, like, you know, we're not talking illness, well, all illnesses, and we're not talking death or grief and mourning. But let's be honest, when things have come upon us in our lives, a lot of times we could have avoided it, or we could have done something. If we'd have made different choices, we'd have had different outcome.
But sometimes people suffer because of the waywardness of others.
Mhm.
Aha, very true. Very true. And that goes back to the communal impact that foolishness has.
Right.
And I don't know this for sure because, like I said, while I've read Proverbs, I haven't studied it like this before. And so we'll talk about how it'll be interesting to see if it talks about how the foolishness impacts other people.
Mhm.
Because you're dumb, we all suffer.
Mhm.
Again, it goes back to Washington, doesn't it? The foolishness of others. Well, or it goes to the woman who was killed by that drunk driver.
Right. Oh,
Mhm.
I was sitting here thinking of my aunt who was killed by a drunk driver.
Yeah. I mean, the foolishness, somebody else's foolishness.
Right.
And that wasn't a choice that she made.
No, she was just driving home.
And so, yeah, I mean, which is why the Jewish community felt that the Proverbs were so important.
Mhm.
Now, I want to challenge y'all something because our next Bible study, let's see, this Saturday is the 2nd, right? It's
Yeah.
October 2nd. There are 31 Proverbs. And one of the ways that one things that or 31 chapters in the book of Proverbs, and I have heard this, and I challenge you to do this with me, is every day read a chapter of Proverbs. They're mostly short. I mean, like Proverbs, it doesn't take long to read Proverbs. I mean, because for one, it's written like poetry. But yeah, read every day, read a proverb. Read one of the chapters in Proverbs. I know people that have committed to do that for an entire year. Every month they read through the book of Proverbs. But at least in October, while we're studying it, because we'll only go through we'll be in chapter 5 at the end of October, but we'll all have read the whole book by then.
Mhm.
And that'll be interesting. And so I encourage us all to do that. That is one wise thing that we can do.
Mhm. And if you think about it, verses 32 and 33, the last couple of verses, is sort of like, here's the moral of the story.
Yeah.
I mean, this is it. This is what you were supposed to learn. Right.
Yeah. and so, isn't this a well-written textbook?
It is. This is like closure for those of you that were teachers.
Yeah. I mean, it's just,
Yeah.
it's neat. Now, Bobby, I'm seeing you here in person. Does this mean your retirement is already upon you?
Yes, I'm technically on annual leave for the last 2 weeks, but I'm done.
So awesome. So we can see your bright, shining face during Bible study, even though we're broadcasting it.
Yeah.
Because nobody can be upset with you now, can they?
Nope.
That's awesome. Congratulations, sir. And when do y'all leave for New Orleans?
Thursday.
Remember the book. Remember what you learned today here in Bible study.
I know, right? That's it's kind of ringing true.
Yeah. Yeah. There actually is a proverb. Who has redness of eyes? Who has woe? Who has redness of eyes? It's basically a proverb about not getting drunk. It's pretty funny. Like I said, some of the proverbs they're just well written, and some of them may not make much sense to us, but we'll dig through them too. But this is going to be a fun journey through this book. All right, y'all. I will see you again soon. Bobby, y'all be careful this weekend. Take care of Damien and Mike. So
Yeah.
y'all take care.
Vice versa. Yeah.
Bye.
Bye.
Are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here.
Okay. You said in the instruction was chapters, I think you said 1 through what?
9
1 through 9. and-
speeches. Instructive speeches were 1 through 9, and 10 through 31 were like the wise sayings.
Okay. All right. Thank you.